All right, good evening. All right, this one's kind of a pretty dark video. But I'm not going to talk about the video too much in detail. Cliff notes. Um, Somebody got LAZIK eye surgery, and there were two cases of this, mind you. Ironically, both of them, I guess, were police officers. They had LAZIK eye surgery, and then they self-deleted. So enough about that. You know, what I am going to get into is, you know who's going to be all over that? Fucking lawyers. They're going to be all over that. Which raises another question. You know, we've seen lawyers all over other cases, you know, where somebody self-deletes because of, you know, medication that they're taking. You know, be it, you know, two classic examples I can think of, anticonvulsants and Chantix, you know, which was a smoking cessation drug. And lawyers were all over that. And it does not surprise me that people cashed in. So, but, you know, with the LASIK, are they really going to have enough evidence? Because, you know, really it only touches the outer cornea. Let's see what the commenter says in this video. There may not be any clinical evidence. LASIK did this to me. Okay. Is the surface of the cornea only. So there may be some, again, you know, we don't know enough about this. I mean, this is all fucking new. It says you can't. We're young and there will always be hope for fixing the problem. So, what are your thoughts?
Prayers and the well wishes because it's this is a hard go. These popular don't need all the prayers and the well wishes because it's this is a
things go wrong, and for some, the torment is just too much to bear. Here's Amber Cogliano.
I'm struggling a little bit, so I do still need all the prayers and the well wishes because it's this is a hard go.
This popular TV meteorologist suffered after having laser eye surgery.
I stand corrected. She was a meteorologist.
I'm trying to stay strong and get through this recovery.
But 2 months after the surgery, 35-year-old Jessica Starr's husband says her struggle with vision and light sensitivity following the procedure led her to take her life. This 26-year-old police officer, Ryan Kingersky, also committed suicide after his family says he experienced severe complications from LASIK eye surgery.
He was in pain, warning.
All right, let me know what you think. I'm not sure what to make of this, but I do know that when shit like this happens, you know damn well as I do that lawyers are going to be all over that, you know, because they make money off of people's grief. You know, that's their thing. You know, those class action lawyers. You know, I think they're just fucking evil. You know, and now, obviously, the only correlation between those two, and you know, mind you, those are the only two that you even heard of. You know, both successful people, and they both had LASIK. And you know, you have to meet certain criteria to be a candidate for LASIK. Now, again, you know, did the doctor decide to be greedy and try to make a profit? And in which case, that could be a whole separate lawsuit in of itself. You know, medical malpractice, you know, due to negligence. And, you know, once you get LASIK and if you have, you know, those problems, you know, LASIK's been around for a long time. You know, while I'm here, let me actually take a look. When was LASIK invented? I'm going to do that right now. right. 1989, according to the Vision Census. All right. It's referred to a. Let me go to the Wikipedia. Okay, so in March 2009, the FDA recognized a new LASIK standard. Process, preoperative, wayfront guided. I'm just trying to see if the Wikipedia history, a number of patents. Okay, so it's first. So essentially, it was first, patented in 1989, but it was first went mainstream in obviously, the 2000s, because that's when I first remembered hearing about it, and would I have been a good candidate? But even though, okay, yeah, so 2009, it's now 2025. So something clearly went wrong with those two cases. Because this is the first time I've even heard about it. But, again, when you hear about it once, who's going to be, who's going to want to be fucking dipping their hands in the cookie jar? Fucking attorneys. Like those, did you lose somebody to suicide, during LASIK? Call us now and you can be entitled to compensation. So it's almost like, it's almost like you're worth more to your family dead than alive. I know it sounds kind of grim, but and it's really fucked up. That's the case, Case in point, life insurance policy. You're basically paying X amount of money each month for as long as you live. And then that goes to, whoever you made the beneficiary, usually would be, your kids. If you don't have any kids, it'd be, some other family member. Or it could be your spouse if you're married. But, again, when it comes to stuff like this, especially, medical, we're seeing it for people, with mesothelioma, when you were exposed to asbestos, and they were still going on about that. Because, asbestos, you get in the air and you stop breathing, and it's, it's not going to be a good day. So it's just kind of fucked up that, we live in a world where, who the heck is this person? Okay, I'm going to block this person. Other. I wonder if that's the same number. Okay, no, it's a different number. I was like, what the fuck? I know I get distracted sometimes. Forgive me for that. But back on top here, it's just kind of fucked up that people are worth more to their family dead than alive. And hell, even if you fucking take your kid to a retail store, guess who's responsible? The store, not the parent. Something happens to the kid, because the store didn't, watch the kid to make sure the kid wasn't climbing on, the fucking display racks. Yeah, guess who's wrong? The store. Yeah, well, my kid may have died, but I'm rich. You know, so it's just basically fucking evil all around. Now, for those two, yeah, I guess you can call them victims, um, by their own hand. Um, they really need to look into that and see what other types of issues they were having. Was it the pain? Were they prescribed a procedure that they didn't qualify for because some greedy doctor just wanted to make a fucking profit? And then in which case that could be another lawsuit of medical malpractice, which is a whole other lawsuit in of itself. You know, let's assume they didn't meet the you know requirements to be able to get LASIK. Doctor goes and approves them for the LASIK, and then this happens. Now, obviously, they didn't see the same doctor because not that I know of, because they're two totally different people that unfortunately had the same fate. But that was basically could be greedy doctors that just wanted to make a buck. And if their insurance company denied the claim, well then I guess the doctor ain't getting their money. Unless maybe they try to go after the spouses. Which is unfortunately a possibility. Especially they may do that. Especially if they share assets. So I think because of that could have been a whole other factor. That okay, they're married, they share assets. Oh, if something happens to it. If something happens, yeah, well, we'll just go after the spouse for the money. Anyhow, that's just my 2 cents. It sucks that happened, and it sucks. When you realize, well, you won't realize it, but if something happens to you, due to somebody else's negligence, attorneys are all over that, and you're worth more to your family dead than alive. Make that shit make sense. I'll talk to you.